Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about the huge and sweeping changes from GGG regarding Path of Exile 2. Now, 3 days ago, we had an interview with Ziz and Jonathan and Mark, and that kind of sparked a lot of the changes we're about to discuss because Mark was very open to feedback, and obviously Ziz doesn't just speak for himself. He put a lot of the feedback of the community into this interview. With a lot of creators being vocal, I was also one of them, and we've had a lot of back and forth since then. Now, one thing I want to say, because some people were like, why do we have to complain? It's early access. Just let them do their job. The thing is, GGG doesn't really work like that. And if you've been checked out of PoE 2 in the last 3 days, there's been more happening than in the last 4 months. So to everybody who says these kind of like feedback videos don't work, it's just negativity or whatever. No, it's like a back and forth dialogue. That's kind of how GGG works. A lot of people have been conditioned like this. They often put out unfinished stuff because it's very hard to test a game that is this in-depth. Now, as for the changes, we've had 2 huge ones and then a lot of other small changes. We're going to go over the 2 hugest ones. The one here is they're actually going to make you able to respec ascendancies. And for that, you have to redo an ascendancy trial as if you had all points. So for example, if you already have full points, you're going to have to do one of those hard trials again. However, for 4 or 6 ascendancies, they made it easier. So they put down the level of ultimatums, and I think actually only for ultimatums, not for Sekima, but ultimatums will be a lot easier. For me personally, I love this because now I can actually try out some other stuff. If I'm tired of Amazon, I can try out Ritualist, especially for classes where you had a obvious early class that is better and then maybe a late game class. For example, Amazon is just so much better early game than something like Ritualist, but maybe Ritualist is actually good in endgame, so you can kind of swap around, which is, yeah, awesome. And that is the first big change. The second big change is actually something that already happened in patch 0.2.0, which if you haven't seen yet is a huge patch that has kind of been teased over the last 2 days. And that is something you'll have to scroll down for to find. Finding rare monsters in endgame. That cannot state enough how big this changes. I'll quickly show you. And I'll show you in the garbage map like C page, which is one of the worst layouts that has been ever made, let's just say, by humans, maybe by AI, I'm not sure. I don't think AI would make something like this. And if you press the mini map, I'll put it up right here, you can see immediately all the rares are on the mini map. So this might seem like a small change because you could say, well, that already kind of happened towards the end of a map, right? But I don't think you understand. This gives you direction, right? You know how you would hug the wall and like be nervous about every crevice and maybe even backtrack because, oh my God, if there's a rare here, there's no checkpoint nearby, so I'll have to backtrack. So I might as well go there. Never happens again. Never happens again. Maps now feel a lot smaller. Everything is, I did a little bit of testing and it feels around double as fast. So in general, this has just made endgame from tedious to actually fun for me, and I'm not overstating this. I need you to try this out. I'd first thought it would be a nice first change, but it just gets to show you how some changes can be drastic. Like this single change has completely changed how I interact with endgame. So if I go here right now, think for example, oh, I have to go up, right? I have to hug the wall or whatever. There might be something back there. Let's go up. Let's see. Oh, I also don't know where the rares are, right? Because they kind of look the same. There's no like yellow hue where you could know if it's a rare. Oh, let's go in here. Doesn't happen anymore, right? Because you already know there's nothing up there. The way you would have gone is you would have immediately gone down here, right? So you already saved like 10, 15 seconds, maybe more, right? Depending on your build. And it is so much more efficient, especially in bad layouts. Obviously, in good layouts, you could kind of do it already, but that was never the issue, right? Like, there's like a few good layouts that you can actually do easily. But yeah, as you can see right here, you know exactly what's about to happen. You also know when rares are jumping on you, right? Obviously, some of the rares are pretty pesky, so knowing when they're coming is also a big, big deal. But there are a lot more changes in here. First up, we have Bleed is now comfy. The energy shield changes, right? So bleed and chaos inoculation was a little bit of a thing. So if you didn't know, you couldn't apply bleeding to an enemy if it had energy shield, which made for a little bit of an awkward playstyle if you couldn't chunk off energy shield from certain enemies, because if you're a bleed build, a lot of that damage might be coming from not your hit, right? So yeah, it could lead to some very annoying scenarios, which you don't have to deal with anymore. Chaos inoculation has to make you bleed immune now, because otherwise you would die to every single bleed because you only have 1 life. So it still goes through life. It's just that energy shield doesn't kind of protect it anymore. And yeah, that overall is pretty good for CI, for bleed builds. Very big as well, ailment threshold for energy shield builds. So basically what they did is they made a balance pass over all of these. Gain additional stun threshold equal to percentage of your ES. These now also give ailment threshold, which is very nice because people used to take, for example, Icebreaker to just get the energy shield to freeze threshold, but now you can do that in general. You can just take these nodes that some of them you would have probably taken anyways. For example, a lot of people take Hollowed as this 2-pointer. Well, there you go, right? You now get 28% of your ES as extra ailment threshold. Great change. Another great change is that you can now get stats on runes. Now, I already found some of those. I'll show them to you right here. These are the new greater runes. They go from 6 to 10. So even early game, you can get like 6 strength or 6 dexterity intelligence. And, well, it gives you that stat. And that's pretty big for stat stackers in particular, but it's also big for every single other build that has a tiny hole to fix. Because very often, I don't know, I've had this happen a lot. You change some gear piece and all of a sudden it says, I don't know, 6 dexterity required, right? And it's like, oh, well, what do I do? You don't just want to redo your passive tree. You can't just take 2 points to fix it, right? But now you can sacrifice a rune, which is a lot better of a solution. And then we also have Delhi being double as long. Let's see if I find it in here. Here are the Delirium changes. On top of that, the font of the Delirium fog can now continue expanding while doing other mechanics. So they basically made it so you can do certain mechanics, just like in Path of Exile 1, where yeah, you don't get interrupted. You can actually do that expedition. Meanwhile, your fog doesn't disappear. We also have some skill-specific changes. Looking at, for example, Arc, which now has an explosion. It cannot shock itself anymore. But if enemies are shocked, you get an explosion on top. And yeah, that pulse has 1.5 meters, which is not that bad. Especially if there's a lot of monsters clustered up. So if you have any idea how to shock enemies, then Arc is now going to be a lot more interesting. Eye of Winter, I don't think will matter too much. We have Incinerate getting a huge quality of life buff. Incinerate gives like minus 50 fire rays exposure, so having that up from 2 to 8 seconds can be quite huge. Not necessarily for Incinerate builds, but for every other fire build. With some Frostbolt and Ice Nova changes, which I don't think will do too much. Mana Tempest could be interesting, right? You can read through all of this yourself. We've had them attempt to make parry relevant, as they said in the interview, which I don't think is going to happen. But they've also done other changes. For example, Spearfield now does more damage. Rapid Assault got a buff. Herald of Blood no longer destroys corpses. I don't think this is actually going to matter. Warrior has an interesting one here with Shield Wall. Shield Wall, if you don't know, can now be detonated by Warcries as well as Slammed. It's kind of like this wall you put up before you, and it was quite annoying to break. So it's kind of like ice walls, right? You're supposed to break them, and then they explode for damage. But the thing is, you never hit all of them, because certain attacks are like directional or whatnot. But you can now break it with a Warcry, which is an AoE. So all of your shield walls are not going to be broken, which I think overall could make for a good build. It is not, it's only 180 though. It's not 360, so I'm not 100% sure. Could be a little bit of an awkward build. Yeah, and a ton of other changes. I would highly recommend looking through all of this. One thing I can just reiterate again and again is how big this change is. I am not joking. For me, I mean, maybe it's not as big for you as for me, but for me, mapping has just gone to enjoyable. And this just once again proved to me how important it is to communicate with the devs. Thanks a lot to Zizaran also for doing the interview. I thought it was a very nice presentation of all the issues that the game currently faces. And this patch, plus the upcoming one with the Ascendancy changes, being able to respec your Ascendancy, that is, will, I think, make the game a ton better. Most of these changes, though, including the one with the rare that I just showed you, the rare showing up on the minimap, already in the game, so I would highly recommend checking it out. I'll be mapping quite a bit in the next coming days over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. But yeah, that was about all I wanted to say. I'm very happy that they were listening. I'm very happy that they act quickly, and that this time there's going to be a lot of changes. With that said, I gotta get back to mapping, and since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.